This week on Boring Gear Reviews, we've got the Martini Cat from Demonic Machines. Thank you so much to Lucky from Demonic Machines for sending me the Martini Cat. So the Martini Cat is a Univibe that allows you to switch between vibrato and phaser and cycle between 16 different LFO presets. So for controls, we have rate and depth, and that will obviously control the speed and depth of the modulation. We have a 3-way multiplier switch, which will multiply whatever the rate is, so you can get very, very fast or bring it down and just do very, very slow. With the rate in mind also, this also has tap tempo. Super, super fun and convenient. Next we have shape, and that will alter the shape of the waveform of the modulation. So if you turn it more counterclockwise, it's kind of a smoother, rounder effect. And then the more clockwise you turn it, the more kind of intense and sharper that waveform becomes. And then we have an 8-way rotary switch to cycle between the LFO waveforms, and that is paired with this preset switch. So left, you'll have the first bank of 8 waveforms, and then you flip it to the right, and then you have the second bank of 8 waveforms. Then you have level, which controls the volume of the pedal while it's on, and gain. So you can add a little bit of grit and distortion to the signal. This switch in the middle will toggle between phaser to the left or vibrato to the right. For today's demo, I'm using my 2021 Dunable Yeti Custom. This has Dunable Grizzly Pickups. These are custom wound, so they're low output and unpotted. And as always, I'll be going into my UAD Apollo X6 and using the JMP 2203 amp sim from Softtube. All right, in this first clip, we are going to be starting the signal chain with the Parabola from Caroline Guitar Company. If you'd like to check out my full demo of the Parabola, click the link up here. And to begin with, we're just going to be using the drive section of the Parabola. And that will go into the Chase Bliss Thermae. And here we're going to have a delay with a ton of pitch sequencing. It'll be very obvious when you hear it. It's only going to be on in the middle section. And then during that section, I'm going to hold down the tap tempo so it'll self-oscillate. Then at the end of the chain, I'm going to have the Martini Cat. And here I'm going to be using it as a very nice, obvious, but still kind of subtle vibrato. It adds just a beautiful amount of movement to my clean signal. What I like about this is you'll get the movement from the Martini Cat, and then the movement from the pitch sequencing of the Thermae, and then the movement from the tremolo of the Parabola, and it just creates this really kind of gorgeous modulated texture that I honestly didn't even know I was really obsessed with, but I am. And in this example, the rate will be around 1 o'clock. The depth will be maxed. I'm going to have the multiplier all the way over to the right. I'm going to put the shape at 3 o'clock, so it's going to be a bit more exaggerated in the waveform. And then the waveform, okay, so there's no indicator which waveform you're on. So I'll just say it's going to be like I think it's the 6th one. It's going to be pointing at the M. And I don't know exactly what that waveform is, but that's the one I'm using. And then that'll also be paired with the preset will be to the right. The level will be just about maxed. It'll be in the vibrato setting. And then I'm going to have the gain around 2 o'clock. Okay, so in this next section, we're going to be starting with the Holy Island Audio Glass Palace. If you'd like to see a full demo, go ahead and click the link up here. And we're going to start with just the boost section on. So it'll be like a very low gain setting, and then it'll be super obvious. I'll click on the primary gain, and it'll be a very thick high gain setting after that. That will be running into the Death by Audio Echo Dream 2. If you'd like to see a full demo, click the link up here. And here we're just going to have a kind of a nice delay around 700 milliseconds just to kind of give a little bit of movement and space, very gently modulated behind that as well. And that will go into the Death by Audio rooms, and here it's just going to be kind of a medium to large digital, plate hall type of reverb. And finally, that is going into the Martini Cat. And here we're going to be using the phaser. I have to say, I've never had that much experience with phaser. I had a friend in high school who, we were all playing guitar, and he never really got into guitar, but he got a guitar and an amp, and he had this PV 212 combo amp that had a built-in phaser. And so that was like the most experience I had with phaser, except for this old Digitech multi-effects processor. It's got a phaser built in right here, like a dedicated thing. You can go between chorus, flanger, and phaser. That's about all the phaser experience I have. And a lot of the times I kind of stayed away from it because it's very effecty. Like it sounds very much like an effect. And I'm not saying this doesn't sound like an effect. It sounds like an effect, but this was the first time I've played a phaser that felt like it was blending with my guitar signal and not sitting on top of it, if that makes any sense. This pedal has kind of developed a love of phaser for me. It's super, super cool. It sounds super thick and warm. There's a little bit of saturation in it. I really enjoy it. If you're a phaser person, comment below and let me know what your first phaser was. The rate is still around 1 o'clock. I'm gonna have the depth just before 3 o'clock. The multiplier is off. The shape is around 10 or 11. I'm using the very first setting for the waveform and the preset to the left. Level is maxed. have the switch to the left for phaser, and the gain at noon. So this just gives a big, giant, swirly, warm, saturated sound that honestly I could play all day. All right, next up, we're going to start with the Thermae, and this will be set as just like a pretty standard analog delay with a little bit of modulation. And that will be going into the Martini Cat. And here we're going to go back to the vibrato setting, and we're going to start with the tempo at kind of like a moderate pace. And then in the second section, I'm going to use the tap tempo to increase the speed. So we'll disregard the rate knob here. The depth is going to be maxed, the shape around 2 o'clock. The waveform is in the 5th position with the preset to the left. Level is maxed, obviously the vibrato to the right, and then the gain around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock as well. And that will be going into the Smallsound, Bigsound Fk Overdrive. This is just going to give a little bit of dirt at the end of the chain. And lastly, we're going to start with the Death by Audio rooms, and we're going to be set on the gong setting. That will be feeding into the Fabrikat. And here we're going to have like a granular delay that's more like a octave up setting. It's very obvious. So we're going to start with a pretty big texture just between these two pedals. And then we'll engage the Martini Cat. And for settings, we're going to have the rate around 10 or 11 o'clock, the depth maxed. I'm going to turn off the multiplier. The shape will be at noon. The waveform is still at 5 with the preset to the left. Level is maxed, and we're going to go back to the phaser, so turning the toggle switch to the left, and the gain just past noon. And what's so cool is it completely changes the vibe and characteristic of the texture we already have. It's going to add so much movement and character, and it just creates this huge, swirly, kind of otherworldly sound that it's unbelievable. And that will do it for the Martini Cat from Demonic Machines. Over the last, 7 years or so, the pedal community, both builders and users, have really exploded. It's just been this remarkable kind of renaissance in these effects. One of the things I love so much is that it's not being gate kept. There's no gatekeeping from huge companies anymore. Anybody who has the skill and desire and creativity to do this can just do that. And with companies like Demonic Machines, it's really awesome how much they lean into the fact that, these are handmade instruments or effects pedals made by people. Like, to have an idea and then from your brain into your hands and then out into the world. I love that very direct line of communication and creativity. And it's because of that we get super cool and unique pedals like this, where it's like, even just aesthetically, all right, it's a big yellow box with this big chonky cat drinking a martini. I love that. I love it so, so much. So there's just all this character and personality just looking at the thing. And then when you turn it on, it's really beautiful. This is a great pedal. It's not without its quirks. I do wish that there was, some labeling on the waveform just for my recall. I'm 40, I'm a business owner and single father, so it's difficult for me to remember what is what. So I need things labeled. But it definitely did kind of force me to not think so much and then just listen, which was fun. So for me, this is a big yes. I love the way it looks and sounds. I love supporting cool people doing cool things. And yeah, if you're looking for a very unique take on phaser and vibrato, I think this is something you should really consider. If you're interested in the Martini Cat or anything else from Demonic Machines, go ahead and click their link in the description below. Or if you're interested in any of the other pedals I used today, all those links are down below as well. I'd like to thank everybody who subscribed and keeps coming back to watch these videos. I really appreciate it. We're closing in on 1,000 subscribers, so thank you first. And then also, when we do hit 1,000, I have something fun planned. So if you're not subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button and notification bell. And if you are subscribed, thanks so much. And if you know somebody who would dig these videos, go ahead and pass me along, or the channel, pass the channel along. As always, thank you for coming, and I will see you next week with another video. Peace.